What's up, mi gente? It's your boy Marco Rojas here in another episode of Aquí Estamos. Today, I got my boy, a huge member in Stockton's community. His name is Alex Orozco. Man, talk to me, man. Who is Alex Orozco, bro?
Uh, I don't know. You know what? They always ask that stuff, especially when you interview for a job, and it seems like that'd be like the easiest answer, right? Because they ask you who you are, and people go and talk about their background, talk about where they're from, where they went to school, and stuff like that, because it's pertinent to what you're there for in the interview, right? But if I had to, sum myself up and a couple, I don't know, a couple statements is, I don't know, caring individual, someone who holds himself to a certain standard and holds others to the same type of standard, because that's what keeps us accountable. Someone who just wants to do good. You know what I mean? That's why I got into the profession that I'm in. It's a cliche answer sometimes when they ask nurses, why you got into nursing. You know what I mean? And some people straight up say, they do it for financial reasons, and other people would just say, oh, I want to help people. There's a lot of ways to help people, and you could do it without being a nurse. You could do it, other different ways. You could do what you do, you could teach and preach and stuff like that, So I think for me, it's more of a deeper thing. It's more just because, I know what it feels like just to be in a certain place that's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like hospitals and stuff like that. I know what it feels like to be afraid. And sometimes it's hard to see the things that I see, but you figure a way to be a part of that is you're there to help them. You're not there just to stand around and just see them suffer. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just to be able to be a part of, them getting better and being that hope for them, that's why, I do what I do, and that's kind of sums me up.
Yeah, damn, man. You put a lot things together to really reflect who you are. Because you're from Stockton, right? You were born and raised here in Stockton, or no?
Yeah, not born here. I was born in Hayward. Okay. I was born in Hayward, and I came here when I was 1. Oh, okay. So my parents met in Hayward. They had my brother, and then they had me. And then they figured, hey, it's too expensive to live out here, and they foresaw it being way expensive to live out there. So they're like, let's go to Stockton. Let's go to the Valley. So then they came out here when I was 1, and I've been raised out here, man. This is all I really know. I haven't been out there in a while, so this is my city. This is my community. So this is what it is.
That's good, man. That goes to my, like, I was gonna say, it's like, so what does Stockton mean to you, bro? Like when you, because when I always talk about Stockton, bro, I always talk about my home and my community, but that's a cliche answer. But for you, what does Stockton mean to you?
It's kind of one of those things. I believe it's misinterpreted. The city's misinterpreted because, everything gets boasted about, the crime and the bad things, and that it's just like everything's bad, everything's negative. You know what I mean? But so much talent is in this city. So much good things come from this city. Right. For me, where I was born, it's kind of where out there where you stay at. You know what I mean? I was born there, and it wasn't always the best. Community wise, it wasn't always considered the best. And I had a lot of friends who grew up in sort of the similar paths that I did, and they veered off into a more
different
malicious path. Yeah, in a malicious path. You know what I mean? A worse path than I did. And so I believe it's not always about your environment. It's more about just who you are. You know what I mean? Because I went to the same schools these people went to, you know what I mean? I did the same things these people did. And I came out the way I came out, and some of these people aren't even here anymore, So I just think that there's a lot of misinterpretation about who we are and where we're from. And I think, recently, one of my friends, Brandon, I don't know if you know who he is. He was on America's Got Talent.
Yeah, that's my boy, Brandon Leak, man. Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Leak. Yeah, I went to high school with him. And I remember the first time I met him, he was playing basketball. And I went out for basketball my sophomore year and got cut. But before I did, me and him did a couple drills, and he would make me look dumb because he was so good.
I didn't even know he was that good at basketball, bro.
Oh, he was really good at basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, he was really good at basketball. Super smart guy. Super smart, really talented. And I didn't even know he did spoken word, until I saw him after high school and after college and stuff like that. I would run into him and he would talk to me about it. And it's so funny that I would see him everywhere. I would see him at Target. I would see him at the, I would see him everywhere.
Right.
And he would always talk about this stuff. And then I heard he was doing the show, and oh my gosh, look at this dude. He won it. And then I swear a week later, I saw him. I saw him at one of the farmers markets out here. And it's like, this dude was just, with all these celebrities and on national TV, won all this money and is doing all these great things. And he came back. And he's one of those things that he's an epitome of the kind of people that we are, because like all he talks about is wanting to bring that stuff here. You know what I mean? In Stockton, everything that he's trying to build, he wants to build it here.
Right.
He doesn't want to go to LA or take it somewhere else and then build it there. He wants to build it here with this community. So,
for sure. I mean, he's one of those, like a lot of folks that, could go away, but come back because it's like, that's what it's all about. Like making sure that our community gets the resources that it deserves. And, I applaud you too, because even for you, like, I'm sure you can, like, even for us, like our job it's not like it's only in Stockton. Like we can go anywhere and take our jobs anywhere, but like giving back to Stockton was what meant a lot to you. I'm sure that's why you're, doing what you do here. Right.
Mm-hmm. And then, that was a big thing too. You know what I mean? Cause like I said, I've taken, like I said, like these just little things, man, like working in this community, you know what I mean? Like right now, I'm working at the county hospital, I work there. And
excuse me,
this is, like I said, this is my community. So it's like I'm giving back, and I don't see why I wouldn't. And kind of like when I saw you, when you guys were going through what happened with your wife's grandfather, you know what I mean?
Oh, grandma?
Grandma, but then it was also Bree's grandfather, remember? So it's just like, that's when I see, the impact of the things that I do. You know what I mean?
I see what you mean. Gotcha.
So it's like, because it's like you can, there's a lot of people in Stockton you never met. You know what I mean? You wouldn't probably, like I said, I've taken care of a lot of people, and a lot of the people I never really met before then. You know what I mean? But then there's those people that I come in contact with that, knows friends of mine, family members of mine. Yeah. And then that's where the connection really builds. Like, okay, this is kind of like why I did why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I see that you like pursued education out here in Stockton too. Like you didn't want to leave too. What made you want to get into the career that you did? Like I know for me, I don't know how I ended up in history. I just did. I knew I always loved learning about myself and learning about my cultura and what's important to me. And then all of a sudden I'm a teacher, and I can like give a whole story about that. But how did you end up, going, with your educational process of where you were and then going into nursing and all that?
You know what? It's so funny because, I get asked that a lot too. Like, how'd you start, or how'd you want to start into doing what you do? And it started off when I was playing baseball. And my coach's wife was a nurse, and I went to her house one day, and she saw that I had charisma and that I was just good with people, and I was nice and respectful. And she kind of put me on to nursing. She said, we need more men in nursing. This is back in 2009, you know what I mean? So, or 2010, around there. I had just finished high school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do because very few people, and I think it's a blessing when you come out like knowing what you want to do off the bat. You don't waste no time. You just get into it. I was not that way. I knew I wanted to go to school. I did well in high school. I always had good grades, better than my siblings. But when I left, way better. But when I left high school, man, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something that's when the recession was happening in 2009, right. And people were just, had all these high degrees in business and all these things, and they weren't finding any work. And I didn't want to be in a situation where I spent and invested not only time, but money into something and not be able to, enjoy or profit from it, with a career, not just that I like, but that I can actually, have to support me, and eventually my family. So when she told me that, it didn't even cross my mind to do nursing. You know what I mean? I was always good with people. Ever since I started working at Safeway up the street from my house, I was always good with people. I was really good at reading people. I was really good at, making them laugh and smile and stuff like that. So I thought that was a bonus. And then I got into it, and it took me a while, honestly, Marky. It took me a while because I was one of those people that says, "Oh yeah, I'm majoring in nursing, yeah," and just taking general classes. You know what I mean? I wasn't taking it serious. I had my friends there, and just BSing, and just not taking it serious.
Hanging out at the spot.
Hanging out at the spot. Going to the mall and going to the food court and stuff like that, because it's always better than going to class, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But then stuff happened, man. I got kicked out of Delta for a semester. I was working full time at the time and at a shredding company, and I got let go for a month. For a semester at Delta. I got let go for a semester, and I was just working for 3 months, man. And I figured that this is not what I want to do. I don't want to do this. So I was able to. I had to make like what was it? Not a petition, but I had to go back and talk to the dean and kind of write a letter and just kind of explain to him why I deserve to come back, because I was suspended for that, semester because my GPA was in the toilet. And I talked to him, and he set me up with the counselor, and I told her I wanted to do nursing because this time I was really serious about it. And she told me, "Oh, maybe you should pick something else because your GPA is sub 2 and your grades aren't that great. It's kind of hard to get into this program." And I was like, "Just give me the class I need to take and I'll do it. I can do it." And she printed out my plan, man, and it was tough, man. It was tough, but I had no setbacks. I got great grades in the class I need to. I passed the tests that I needed to pass with good scores. And dude, it was more of like, I always say that I was blessed and lucky at the same time, man, because I had no other options.
Right.
Everyone had different schools they were applying to. I had no other choices. I had one choice, and I applied on my first time, and I got in on my first time.
Do you feel like that the reason why you were successful at the second aspect of your career was because you were pushed to that next limit? Like you felt you felt the pressure.
It was because I'm still young.
Yeah,
we're still young. We're still young, but I was getting at that point.
You're not 30, right? You're not 30, right?
No, I'm 29.
You're 29. You're only I'm gonna be 28 this in July. So I'm like, we're not even in the 30s yet, bro. So
no, not even in the 30s yet, man. And it's one of those things. It's like we have a clock in our mind, you know what I mean, of where we think we should be, and we have a bad habit as people to compare ourselves to everyone else, especially people we graduated with and friends, even though they might not even be the same. Everyone takes a different path. It doesn't matter, and as long as we end up in the same spot, where we want to be. As long as we get there, right? But in my mind, I felt like I was just totally like my back was against the wall, you know what I mean? And I kind of hit rock bottom when I was just working, and I knew it's not what I wanted to do, and I felt just kind of worthless. I felt useless. I was like, man, I'm just going to work, coming back, coming back, and I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. And at that point, that's where I need to take this serious, and I actually need to do this. The thing is, it's like when you start to pretty much fail, you start realizing what you need to succeed, what it takes to succeed. You know what I mean? What it takes to do good, the sacrifices you got to make. I didn't know what sacrifice I had to make until that second time around. When it came to the time, like I was telling you, I would go to my friends, I would go to the mall, and I wouldn't go to class because I thought I could just get by. You know what I mean? But so when I started taking class the second time around, that started going towards my major, it's when I realized that it's just like, this is what it takes. I have to just put in the hours, put in all the studying, sacrifice going out, sacrifice doing all these things, and it'll pay off in the future. You have the rest of your life to enjoy yourself and have fun when you're in a better position, not only financially, but just like, I don't know. I feel like
just saying sacrifice
growth wise, you know what I mean? Because I was always, it's like you're I was always envious of those people who had it together. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, man, how do you have a nice car? How do you have this? How do you have that? And it's like, you don't see what it took to get there, always, or you don't see, the sacrifices they had to make because it's not obvious. It's not in front of you, and it's until I had to make them myself. And that's when you start appreciating things more. And then that's when, it was easier for me to say no. It was easier for me to say, no, I got to do this. No, I got to do that. Or putting those hours in because it was going towards something that, you knew you wanted to do, and you knew that was going to benefit you in the future. Not just for me, but for my kids,
Yeah. And you value that the degree that you got even more, right?
Oh man, dude. When the first time I got, it's just like, when I remember when I got my first degree, and it was just an AA, right? But people say, don't just say it's an AA. Don't just say it's something, right? Because you work for it, right?
Yeah.
But it was my first AA, and my mom would, it was like, oh man, it's just like my mom would always tell me like, hey, so when are you going to graduate? When are you going to graduate? Because before I got my first AA, I was going there. I was there for like 4 years, taking these little classes and taking time off. And it was on and off. And she's like, when are you going to graduate? Because she expects, this out of me, So when I finally graduated and I finally got that degree in the mail, man, I just handed it to my mom and said, this is for you. You know what I mean? And I cried and she cried, and it wasn't even my nursing degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was just that finally you have something that shows the effort that you put in,
Yeah.
And I know it's just a piece of paper, but it's more than that. It's what it symbolizes. So when I got my nursing one, man, that was, I was ecstatic.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's tough.
Absolutely. And you're doing something para nuestra gente. Like you're leaving an example, because that was like kind of like you said something, in 2009, you said that, like the lady that kind of motivated you to get into nursing.
Mm-hmm.
You said that y'all needed a male representation because there was, I'm kind of, my question is like, what is like when it go in the nursing field, what is the male representation? And also what is the Latinx representation in the nursing field?
Like what's it?
So is there a lot of folks is there a lot of male nurses in, like, let's say,
what there is now, there's more now. I have a feeling that before I want to say maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe there wasn't, because I say that because I've only seen a selected few of older male nurses, and that doesn't mean that they were nurses back then and now they're nurses. They could have got into nursing later on in their life, right? But a lot of the male nurses now are really young. You know what I mean? They're a lot younger, so that makes me believe that the past 10 years is when they decided to get into this field. But it was mainly dominated by women, right?
Right.
That's what everyone thinks. But a lot of my teachers would always be like, well, it's funny that it's like that, or that's the perspective that people have on nursing, that it was a female dominated thing, when really it was a male dominated thing. Because back in those war days, I don't know how long this is your field, but back in the war days, I don't know, many years ago, they didn't allow women in the Army.
Yeah.
And men were the only types of paramedics and medics and things like that would do this kind of nursing stuff. So it was mainly dominated by that. Oh, this is my boy. Hold on. Come say hi. Come say hi. Say hi.
Hey.
Say hi. Okay.
Yeah, how you doing?
Say fine. Go. Say hi.
Hi.
You gotta go. Go.
Like you, bro.
Go. Yeah, go. My bad.
It's all good, man. It's all good. This is natural.
I'll fix it. Go. Hey.
Okay. It's like, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. It's like,
I locked the door, man. I swear I locked the door.
It's all good, bro. It's just it's funny because it's like when I think about it, it's like, I know we were talking about the male representation and it's getting better now, but I'm like, now you got me thinking about, when your son comes in, it's like, I'm having a son coming in about a month from now, man.
Congrats, man.
And appreciate it,
That's
bro.
awesome. I've been thinking about that for a while, man. I'm like, I said, man, when are they going to have a baby? You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And it's official. It's just,
that's great, man.
I just want to make sure that, and I know you think about this too, is like, how can, I know my parents did a great job. I know my dad did the best that he could, but how can I do better? Right. That's
always the goal.
That's always the goal. How do we always do better for our kids in the next generation? Right. Yeah.
Cause it's not even a knock on, our parents, you know what I mean? But you always want to strive for better. You know what I mean? Every step, so I hope that they do better than I did. I hope that they want the better for their kids. You know what I mean? And honestly, I always talk about this. It's just like, getting into this field, back then I didn't even think about, I hadn't had my son yet until I got into the program is when I first had him,
Right.
But it's something you think about, especially when you're thinking about a career. It's something that, you want your kids to be proud of you, even though they don't even know what being proud is at the time. You know what I mean? They might not even be here yet, but you're like, I want something to say like, hey, your dad did this, and something for them to build on,
Right.
And kind of lay a baseline of where we're at, So if I'm doing this, you don't have to get in the same field as me. You know what I mean? You don't have to follow my footsteps and do this, but know what I did for you guys so that you know what it takes to do well for yourself and for your family, And it's never going to be easy. Things that are worth it are never easy, but they're always worth it. So I talk to him all the time, man. He thinks daddy's a doctor. I'm like, no. We're not doctors. We're nurses. We're nurses.
Would you ever consider going into that field? Like,
no, man, honestly, I'm going back to school this year. Actually, me and a buddy of mine, we thought it would be better to do it together, but we're probably going to go into to get our nurse practitioner license, which is the closest thing a nurse can probably get to being a doctor. You have your patients, and it's more focusing on the disease process and things like that. And you have your own patients as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can still prescribe medications, and you get to diagnose and things like that, and you get to treat, but without having to go to med school and spend it's just one of those things, man. When we're younger and we think about being a doctor, it sounds really cool. But I know a lot of doctors that talk to me, they're just like, you picked the right thing. They tell you picked the right thing. So
wow.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because you say that with the doctor standpoint. Even for some teachers, is like when I first started being a teacher, I was like, my goal was to go into being a professor, right? Teaching at a college level and doing some big stuff. But now that I know where I'm at right now, and it's like those that to be a professor and to a good school or just a school in general, I know you need a master's at a college, at a community college, and then you need a PhD at like if you want to teach at a 4-year university. And it's hard because and then it's funny because it's like every professor that tells me or I've had a contact with, they're like, don't do it.
Don't do it.
It's because you stack up the debt and you don't even get you don't even get paid.
That's another thing, man. It's crazy. And that's why I feel like I'm so blessed, man. So lucky, because I know a lot of nurses who got the same degree I did. I got my associate's degree in nursing, and I know some nurses who got that same degree and they paid a lot of money because they couldn't get into a community college or community program that's relatively cheaper. It's cheaper to get into, but they're harder to get into, right? As opposed to going into a private school, which kind of more assures you that you're going to get in, right? Because you're paying to get in, kind of. It doesn't really matter too much about grades as long as you kind of have the requirements, the prerequisites, but it costs a lot of money. And I know some nurses who had the same degree I did, worked at St. Joseph's when I did, and they paid like $70,000.
Yeah, man.
And I come think about it, I'm like, dang, man, I left owing nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't know not 1 cent. And I'm like, that's something that I don't take for granted, man.
And it helps you build for your financial freedom in the future, because it's like, I was just talking to Diaz in that last episode, and we're in a $1.7 trillion debt. We have a $1.7 trillion debt problem here in the United States, and to each their own. Like, everybody has their own opinions. They say, we gotta, wipe out student loan debts. The government should just forgive them, or some people just don't go to school, work, and find a trade, which these are all good answers to them. Mm-hmm. But I'm just like for me, I know Bree and I, when we graduated, we didn't graduate with school debt either, because we found scholarships. Like, what was your process like when you made that decision? I'm going to go this school route, and I'm going to try to pay as little as possible.
Well, that was kind of what I was referring back to when I was just like, this is my only option, right? Because that's when I knew that I had to like suck it up and get good grades, because that's pretty much it. Like, right. You hear a lot of rumors, everyone's always like, oh, about the program, especially they just like discouraging rumors, that, oh, you're going to be on the wait list I've been on the wait list for years, and this and that. And it's so hard, and it's almost impossible. And back then it was, back then it was really hard because they were a lottery system. Right. But now it's a point system, which means that it reflects purely on your grades and your test scores. Right. And other little factors too, which benefited myself because my parents were dope enough to, teach me how to speak Spanish. You know what I mean? I was a first generation college student, things like that. And I volunteered at St. Joseph's for a little while. That gave me extra little points, you know what I mean, towards the program and towards the application. But some of those things are things that I took upon myself to do. You know what I mean? Like it was a process to go volunteer at St. Joe's, and I did it for months, in the ER from like 7 or 6 to midnight. I would volunteer like 4 or 5 hours, every other night, just to go and just get these hours under my belt so that I can apply with them, and that's why I was just focused on Delta's program for the fact that I knew that I could not afford to go into another program where I knew I was going to have to pay out of pocket, private fees and stuff like that. So going and taking these classes, my mindset was like, I got to ace these classes. I got to do the best I can, you know what I mean? Because if I don't, I'm not going to get in, and I'm going to be in the same position that these people keep talking about how they're on the wait list because they can't get into this program. So I was lucky, man. I was lucky in the sense where I had the points that I went into with the program. I wasn't completely sold on them yet. I think they only allowed 40 people in, I think 40 people. But back then, like maybe like 7-8 years ago, it was like 70 people or 80 people.
Wow.
But they cut it in half. So it was a lot harder, right? And I remember that I hadn't gotten in right away. This first time around, I hadn't gotten in right away. I was reserve 1, which means that I'm the first person on the waiting list. Okay. And my friend told me, she was in a semester ahead of me. She's like, oh, you're in, guaranteed you're in. I was like, because people apply at other places, they get into other higher schools or whatever, and then they just drop out, and then I get that spot. And I was like, man, I hope you're right, because it's going to suck if I have to keep working, you know what I mean? Because that's when I quit Work World.
Okay.
Because I quit Work World when I was going to have my son, because I was like, man, I know I got to save money, and I can't afford to be working part-time in the mall. You know what I mean? If I'm going to have my son, and if I'm going to get into this program, I need to work somewhere else, make some more money. So I did that all ahead. I hadn't gotten into the program yet. I was just hoping that everything fell into place, and it kind of did, because I left Work World. I got a job working at a electrical company in the Bay Area. I mean, in Manteca, in the warehouse, working full time. Saving money that I needed for when the program came. I had to pay I think it was like $2,000 in the beginning just for like my uniforms and books and stuff.
Right.
And I had enough money to support my son when he first got here. So everything worked out perfectly, because I think I was there for like 3 months, and then they called me and said, "Oh, you're in." And I was like,
wow.
Everything worked out
Deal.
perfectly. You know what I mean? It's just like I said, everything happened according to plan, and that's why I'm like, I don't know if it was luck or blessings, man. I want to say it's both, but that's my main
absolutely.
That was my main thought process. Yeah, that was my main thought process, because I was telling myself, well, if I don't get the best grades or the best test scores, I guess I'll have to settle for making loan payments, I guess, you know what I mean? Because this is what I want to do. So, like I said, man, I'm totally
you're at peace of what you made your decision.
I'm super happy with how everything fell into place, man.
Did you and then it's like you said that you like volunteered and all this, like did you I feel sometimes we feel like millennial. I mean, we're millennials too in a way, but like even younger generation, like you have to. I think sometimes we forget that we need to even sacrifice our own time and not even and be to a point to where not get paid for what we do, so that to get things that we want in the future. What do you think about that?
It's one thing that I honestly, and I've been thinking about this a lot. One thing that I hate a lot, and I don't hate a lot of things, man, but I hate entitlement. I hate people who feel like they're entitled to things because of anything. You know what I mean? And when I decided to do that, when I decided to volunteer at first, it was more for a purpose of not only for to get those hours under my belt, right, but to figure out that this is what I want to do. If this is the environment that I want to spend my career in, you know what I mean? Because I hadn't really been into a hospital environment before. It was all just classes that I was taking, science classes and stuff like that, chemistry, things like that. And it's completely different from actually being in that environment, things you see and things you have to do and things you have to deal with. So that's one of the other reasons why I was like, okay, well, I'm going to volunteer in the ER. I'm going to be here, during and see what it's like, see what the nurses actually do, and see what it's like, get the vibe and see if this is something I actually want to invest my time in, right? And it was. I really liked it. You know what I mean? I never worked in the ER. And I get a lot of praise to everyone who does, because it's a real tough thing dealing with with people in that time, because when they go in the ER right in the beginning, they're feeling the worst. They're feeling the worst. So I give a lot of props to them and a lot of my friends who work in the ER right now. You know what I mean? So that's one of the main reasons why I did that. But like entitlement, you have to give up to get. You know what I mean? Nothing's going to be given to you. Nothing's you have to work. And
right.
I'm sure that our parents, coming from the era that they came from, they instill that in us, but it's up to us to actually pick that up and to carry it with us, And my dad would always take me and my brother out to work. He did stucco on houses and construction, and he would always take us out, and he would have me do like the manual labor. You know what I mean? Just the manual labor, just the stuff that just tires you out. And he didn't want me to learn any kind of skill stuff, none of the skill stuff. And he told me, you're not going to do this. This is not what you're going to do with your life. You know what I mean? So you just worry about doing this and doing that. And I was like, okay,
It's still good to man. Imagine if you, but stucco, man, those that do stucco, that's hard work, bro.
It's tough. Yeah, no, it's tough. I hated it, dude. I'm gonna tell you right now, and it's really funny how this stuff works. It's really ironic, because it's things that we hate, like when we're going through something and we hate it, after the fact, you're just so appreciative of it. You know what I mean? And I hated waking up at 4 a.m, on weekends, when I wanted to stay in and go in to help my dad. Cause I mean, I would help him, and sometimes he would give me like $40. You know what I mean? Sometimes $50. Sometimes he wouldn't give me anything, and it would just be for the fact of me helping him and him not having to pay somebody else.
Right.
But it's the things that it's not just the work. It's not just him wanting to, have us suffer, during work. It's he's trying to teach us something. Like you got to, put an effort in life, or else you're gonna be doing this kind of work. You know what I mean? Not that what he does isn't good enough. Because he makes good money doing what he does, and he loves what he does. He loves it, and I think that's what that's all any of us can really ask for, is to love what we do. He went to work every day and he loves it. So good for him. But I knew it wasn't for me. The job that wasn't for me, and I was like, nope, it's not what I want to do.
Yeah, man.
But little things that he instilled while we were working, or just talking, is what brought me to where I am now. So.
That's good, man. That's transform your mindset and everything right there. Cause it's like entitlement. Yeah, man. That's something that's good.
I hate it, dude. I hate it.
Yeah. I was, you brought up something about the ER, and it kind of wanted to lead to this one as the most important conversation. Cause this is something that we're dealing as a whole, is this pandemic, right? COVID-19. Mm-hmm. You're a nurse. You're actually working now county, I believe, right? You said you moved into the county. You were at San Joaquin, or you were at St. Joe's for a while, but are you at the county now or no?
Yeah, I'm at the county now.
Okay.
I just started there, yeah.
Just tell me your thought process first on COVID-19, man, like as from the perspective of a nurse, bro. Just, I've always, you can have conversation with folks and have this political dialogue with folks, and and it's like, okay, but I really want, I reached out to you right away because I was like, bro, I need to hear this from a nurse perspective, because they're the ones on the front lines. Like, forget what politicians are saying right now. Forget what news anchors are saying. I want to know exactly how the nurses are feeling, so I'm just I want you to see I want to hear your perspective on this COVID-19 thing, man.
Yeah. Man, in the beginning, it was like, it's one of those things where it was funny to me. It was funny to me in the beginning because, it was like mid-February, and I had just taken I took my son to Universal Studios. It was mid-February, and we're out there with everybody, and this stuff was already going around, and I thought it was kind of messed up that everyone was making a joke out of this, because we were talking because we knew about it. Like we were hearing about stuff, and everyone was making these memes about the coronavirus. I don't know if you came across that, but like on Twitter and stuff like that, people were making these memes about this virus, and I didn't take it serious because I'm like, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, well, I mean, it's not over here, right? It's just over there, and maybe it's a little thing, and who knows the severity of it. But then once it started, things started changing around here. You know what I mean? Sports started getting canceled, and then all this stuff started happening. I was like, oh crap, this is something bad. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things, man. My perspective on it, it's a weird time. It's a weird time to be a nurse, man, because we're trying to be in the medical field, even if you're studying and stuff like that, because this is something that has not happened in a long time. And this hopefully won't happen again for a lifetime. You know what I mean? Another pandemic like this. So for me, just experiencing with it, it sucks, man. It's terrible because things don't feel normal anymore. And what does feel normal is not right. You know what I mean? And I think it's worse more the political side of things. You know what I mean? How they're making everything about politics, and they're making everything. It kind of takes away of what's actually happening, in these hospitals and stuff like that. And especially with things happening now with the vaccine, you know what I mean? And you'd be surprised of how many people in the medical field don't trust science. It's weird, but you get a lot of people who work in these hospitals, taking care of these COVID patients.
Wait, hold on. What do you mean? Wait, what do you mean by that? A lot of the medical fields don't trust the science. Like, what do you mean?
Trust the science. Don't trust the science, as in like there's some nurses who still won't trust the science behind the vaccine.
Oh,
You
like
know?
they don't. Okay, so they feel like the vaccine won't be affected. This is just like more
Yeah.
medical stunt.
Yeah. There's even people, like I said, just because we're in the medical field and we understand how this stuff works, you would think that they would have more, they would back it up more. You know what I mean? They would
Right.
understand more, which I do. I do back it up, and I'll tell you about that, in a bit. But there's a
Like,
lot
what?
of people who still don't believe this shit's real, man.
Yeah. What do you? What
Yeah.
do you? Yeah, man. I feel you. And the thing is, like, what have you seen since you were like you've been in there in the hospitals and you've been in and you've seen. I'm sure you see COVID patients. You've seen them in the ICUs and all that. Like, what does that do to a nurse's psyche? You know, when you're in there, you have family at home. You're coming home to every day. You're,
Yeah.
like all this stuff that I know.
It's
Like, put it this way: my wife, when she comes back from work, bro, when Bree comes back from work, she literally like takes off everything, and I'm talking about
mhm,
everything, all her clothes, everything, because she doesn't want to bring it in, and then she goes to
exactly.
the shower. How about you when you're actually there in the front lines? You know?
It's tough, man, and that's like a, especially like in the, when you see it, because it's nothing new to see really sick people. You know what I mean? That's nothing new. So to see people in the ICU, it's nothing new. It gives you perspective on life. Because you think that we think we have issues. We think we have problems, and spend a day in these ICU, spend a day in the hospital. Period. Like I said, when I was with you guys, with Bree's grandpa, you know what I mean? You guys' family dynamic. You guys were going through something. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of your issues outside of that maybe seem really minimal compared to what Bree's grandpa was going through, or what you guys were going through. Oh shit,
Yeah, you're good,
what
man.
you guys were going through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when it comes to that aspect, nothing's really changed in the sense that sick people, we've seen them, right? But it's everything else, and it's the amount, and that this is like cancer. This is like cancer because it doesn't discriminate. You know
Right.
what I mean? It doesn't discriminate age. It doesn't discriminate
Race,
nationality or
ethnicity.
race or anything. Anything. You know what I mean? And it affects everybody differently. People can have it and not know it, and people have it and definitely feel it. So the whole aspect of or the whole thing about after, it just creates a big paranoia
Yeah.
because you know you can't hug anybody anymore. You can't even shake people's hands anymore. You got to elbow tap them, or
Yeah.
it's. And I think that, like, it's weird. It's kind of ironic because in a time where we kind of need to socialize with each other, we need to be involved with each other. You know what I mean? For support, we can't show that
That same affection.
that affection of touch. You know what I mean? That affection
Mhm.
of actually being there to support. And that's kind of the ironic thing about this. Uh,
Have you seen
but
a
yeah,
lot
man, it was tough.
Have you
It
seen a
was
lot
tough.
of have you seen a lot of Latinx folks or Latinos that were affected? Like, do you feel like they're really affected? Like, I know in the news it reports this, but have you seen a lot of Latinos affected way more than you?
It's it's mixed, man. It's mixed. Honestly, it's like I said before, it doesn't discriminate. I've
Yeah,
seen all kind in it. It's, I don't know. It's one of those things where you can't just pinpoint and say, oh, these people get affected more. Because it's just like all walks of life, all age groups, and you see it. Maybe the chances of a younger person, from it affecting a younger person more than the elderly, maybe it's higher from
mhm.
older patients. But you've seen people with 20-year-olds who were to the point of dying. I had one of my buddies who I went to high school with, and this guy, he was talking about. I reached out to him on Snapchat because that's where I saw that he was in the hospital. And in the beginning it was okay, and then after that, after like the first couple, he got admitted, and then after like the next night or whatever, this guy was on like all these like different. I can say it, but you guys might, but they might understand. But he was on a BiPAP machine, which is like, it's pretty much what they use when you had like to increase air pressure
Yeah,
into your lungs. Yeah, oxygen, right? And he's 28. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like he felt like the anxiety level, like he was going to die. You know what I'm saying?
dang man.
And he was healthy. He worked out, and it hit him super hard.
Yeah.
And I know some people who it didn't affect at all. So
Did you ever get it, bro? Did you ever have you came across it? Because
no,
no, it's good,
I
man.
no, I had a couple scares, and it wasn't until recently,
Mhm.
and it was more on my girlfriend's side of the family.
Yeah, because we
But
got it. Bree and I both got it, and
oh, really?
yeah, and it was it affected us too, but it didn't affect us to where we needed to go to the hospital. But we were
Mhm.
concerned. Like I was the first 2-3 days, I was like, oh man, and all that. But I mean, Bree got affected, especially being pregnant. That was a scary
It's
moment for us.
scary, dude. It's scary. It's scary nonetheless, man, because you hear about how it affects people, and then even though they say, oh, the chances of it happening, of it really really hurting you, it's still in the back of your mind, like this can really mess me up. And it's shown that it affects people even after they get over it. It still affects people, like little things. So I'm glad you guys are better, man, because I know a lot of people who, like I said, are in our age group who didn't get better. You know what I'm saying? So
And they're still fighting this thing.
yeah.
And do you feel like
Go over there.
so as a
Go over there. Go over there.
yeah
Go over there. Go over there. No, go over there. Go over there. Let me get him out real quick. Go over.
yeah man.
Yeah. Can you guys not? Sorry, man. Sorry.
No, it's all good, man. This is the daddyhood right now. But what was I gonna say? Kind of closing out, but I know that as a nurse, you see what you see. It has an effect on you mentally. I know that, but the things that you also hear and see too, where I know you're off social media, but I know you still hear about it, like hearing that people are still gathering. Because I feel like like stuff like that, and still, we were in the purple tier for like the longest, and like, what does that do to you as a nurse? And I mean, how about your colleagues as well? Like as nurses, when you hear these stories, like, how does that make y'all feel?
It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, what is that? It's like when they say like ignorance is bliss. Some of these people don't know what they're going through, or some of these people, like I said, if you weren't in the hospital seeing this stuff, you don't know what the magnitude of this thing is. You know what I mean? And it's very easy to say something like numbers on the screen are fake. Especially when a lot of people now, they're talking about fake news and they don't believe anything they see on TV nowadays.
Fake news, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So they don't believe anything they say. They don't believe anything that they see on TV, right? Or they have really selective beliefs about, whatever pertains to their beliefs. That's what they believe. So for me, I spoke to you about this before, off camera, but it's like, it's upsetting to a point. And it's also like, well, they just don't know better, man. It's just like, they don't know better, because if they saw what we saw, if they did what we did and had to deal with the emotional baggage that it comes with, and the physical baggage that it comes with doing what we do, then they would have a better perspective on their actions and what they do on day to day. You know what I mean? They would know the magnitude and the seriousness of this stuff. So I can't really speak for a lot of my colleagues, because we don't really talk too much about it. We try not to, honestly. But does it upset me? Yeah, it upsets me. But I remember a time where in the beginning of this, like I told you, it was just a meme. I didn't take it serious, And how do I know that these people aren't in that stage of this, even though we've been in it for a year?
Yeah.
But it's not me making excuses for them, because I wouldn't, man. But some people, I don't know, they do it unintentionally. Some people know what they're doing. They just don't care. So
Gotcha.
You can't make people care.
Yeah, man, I do appreciate your time though, bro. And I know, and I love hearing your feedback, man. And I hope that those that are listening to this, and when they do get a chance to watch this and listen to you and hear from your perspective, they get motivated. Is there anything like you would want to close out on, saying like you want to share to those that are listening, like just moving forward about yourself and how much this community just, moving forward for this community?
You kind of froze off for a second.
Yeah, I got you.
You froze off that point. What were you saying again?
Oh, okay. I got you. So I was just saying, like moving forward, like I know I want to just close out. Just is there anything you would want, like closing thoughts in your mind, like how, like just for this community, how you want to see like we improve this community regarding more individuals that pursue nursing, pursue the medical field, and also how to encourage, let's say, young Latinos like yourself that are trying to pursue to do better in life. What do you have to say to that?
It's just about self-investment, man. I think it's just self-investment, because we could talk about investing back in our community, but we can't do that until we invest in ourselves. You know what I mean? Until we put ourselves in a position where we can actually give back. So it's kind of the same saying, oh, well, we got to take care of ourselves so we can take care of others. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like that. And I just think that, everyone needs to understand that we can do anything we want. You know what I mean? We can do anything we want. There's no limitations to anything, no matter if you're male, female, trans, anything. Don't matter what color your skin is. Doesn't matter, what your beliefs are. As long as that you're striving to be better every day, even that 1% better every day. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, sometimes you got to hit rock bottom, and that's okay. And depending on whatever you want to do, there's always going to be a learning curve, and that's all right too. And just take everything with stride. Not everything negative has to be negative.
Yeah.
Always be optimistic. And just I don't know, man. Just everyone needs to stay safe. That's the main thing, right?
Just stay safe and
wash your hands.
Wash your hands. You did say something about the vaccinations. I want to just so those that are listening, like, what is the vaccination, like the process of how it's supposed to work? Do you know, or
yeah?
Can you talk a little bit about
so
that?
I got vaccinated already. I got my second dose already. So, and I didn't have much side effects, honestly. Just a sore arm the first time, and second time I had like a little fever, which is normal, and maybe like some fatigue. You know what I mean? Nothing serious. Which is kind of what it's supposed to do, right? So, like, basically, like the basis of vaccines in general, especially in the past, not this one, and I'll explain a little bit different of why it's different. Like vaccines back, like the ones we give our kids and the ones we used to take when we were kids. They work by pretty much delivering either a weakened or an inactivated part of that virus, right? And we give it to ourselves so that our body can recognize that, right? And build antibodies so we can fight it next time we see it. I always use the analogy of like, you can, like when you go and fight somebody, right? Like if me and you fought, right? If me and you fought and say I'm the virus and I beat you up, right? Well, next time that I see you and we fight again, you might have a better advantage at beating me because you know how I fight, you know what I look like, you know what I mean? So you're better prepared next time around. This is kind of how these vaccinations work, because we give it to ourselves, right, initially, and it's a weakened strand, or like I said, an activated strand in our bodies. Next time we see it, right, we are better prepared to fight it because we have little fighters called the antibodies that go and fight it,
Yeah.
right? So this one works a little bit different, right? Because it doesn't use that method, right? And that's why I think a lot of people are really anti-vax for it, because they use something called mRNA, okay, messenger RNA. And pretty much what this does is it doesn't really give like an inactivated. They're not giving you the COVID-19 virus,
right?
Okay, that's people think it's. They need to do a little research because they think it's like the older ones, right, where they actually give it to you. They're not giving you any type of virus, right? All they're giving you is the instructions of a protein that pretty much gives your body instructions to make a protein, right? And they call it coronavirus because it has like crowns on the cell, right? Although the virus itself has little crowns. Those little crowns connect to cell receptors, right? And then that's where it infects a cell, kills and multiplies, and then it makes duplicates of itself, right? Well, what this does is it pretty much imitates a receptor like that, right? And it delivers instructions to your cells like if it was the coronavirus, right? Not giving it to you directly. And then your body then has kind of mimics it, right? But without giving you any type of inactivated or weakened strand of that coronavirus. And then your body then creates antibodies just like it would if it was naturally infected, with the real coronavirus.
Yeah.
So then once it makes, the antibodies, then it can fight it next time it sees it, it comes in contact with it. So it's a little bit different than past viruses, and and vaccines, should I say. So I think that's why people think it's like, oh, this is a new method of vaccine, and usually these vaccines take years to make, right?
Right.
And this one was made under a year, that's why I think they can't trust it. But in reality, like a lot of the stuff that delays vaccinations from being created is more like the money side,
right,
or the document side, like the lawyers and all this stuff and the paper trail that you have to make, right? And the country pretty much helped bypass all that stuff and made that stuff not an issue. Didn't make the money an issue, obviously, because we need it, right? Didn't make the paperwork an issue because all the lawyer documents and all that stuff, we don't need to do it. So they pretty much just expedited all that stuff and got to the science, So they just scienced the heck out of it, and then this is what we got, So that's why I didn't have an issue not trusting it, you know what I mean? Because you think about it, the whole world was working on this thing.
Yeah.
The whole world. And a lot of smart people in this world, you know what I mean? So yeah. It wasn't mandatory for me to take it, working that county. It wasn't mandatory, but they were offering it. And it wasn't even really a discussion for me. You see a lot of
Yeah.
people online, talking about, this happened and this happened. There's medicines people take every day that, maybe one person out of every 100,000 or every, million had a terrible side effect that might have cost them their life, but
It's
they still
crazy.
take the medicine. You know what I'm saying?
So it's
So
like, so you do recommend folks taking it, right? Even
I do. I do. I recommend it. And this is me. And check it out, man. This is not even like, because like my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter, she got her vaccinations and she had a terrible reaction to her 1-year vaccination. So, but I don't know why it happened. But she got her vaccinations, and that same night she had a terrible seizure, man. Terrible seizure. And we had to take her to the hospital. And I swear to God, Mark, he was like, you'll know, man. You'll know when you have your son, the feeling you feel, man. But like, I thought my daughter was like, I thought my daughter was gonna die because I saw her shaking, and me being a nurse, I've seen stuff like this before, but when it's your baby, and you forget everything, you just become a parent and you forget everything. So I didn't even see her breathing at one point, and I was like, oh crap! I called 911, and it was just a terrible, like it was the worst thing I ever been through in my life, worst thing I ever been through, hands down. And it was the same day that she got her, vaccinations, her 1-year vaccinations. It was I take some blame for it sometimes, because it's a known side effect that it can happen, because you think about it, like I said before, you give these vaccinations, they give weakened or inactive things, in those vaccinations, to these viruses and to these things, so that, your body can mimic them and to understand them, right? So I knew that if she received a lot of them, this could be a thing, and she had received 5 vaccinations that day. Wow. And the doctor, and, I was there, and, I just trusted the doctor at the time. I gave her Tylenol just prophylactically to make sure it was okay, but it didn't make any difference because it still happened, so, and that's me knowing that happened to me personally, thinking that it would never happen to me. Still saying, for people to go out there and get it, because the pros severely outweigh the cons, of getting this, because you had it already. You had the
virus,
coronavirus,
the virus,
and it's not good. It's not a good feeling, and the thought that you could possibly, give this to your mom or your dad or your elderly family members, you know what I mean, and possibly harm them, it's not even worth it, man. So I just think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that's gonna be like the biggest hurdle for us to jump, because people are scared already. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it is, yeah.
And now we have a godsend, which is supposed to be like, this vaccine is supposed to be like the thing that's kind of saves us, right? It's supposed to be the thing that kind of gets us over this. And a lot of misinformation is just deterring people from it. So it kind of sucks. But hopefully people come around and understand that, this kind of will help us. It'll help us. So that's kind of my view on it.
Man, I appreciate, man. Thank you so much for enlightening us, educating us, man, and educating me, but also educating those that are going to listen to this, man, and hearing this part. I hope that everything that you say, that we do take it serious, and that we continue to get vaccinated for not only ourselves, but on nuestra gente, our family, our loved ones at the end of the day, bro.
So, man, that's kind of how we're going to get back to normal, man.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? We've trusted these things back in the past, and they've, for the most part, they've helped us, and they've got us through. So hopefully, I don't know a timetable when that would happen, honestly, but as long as we're striding towards that sort of normalcy that we were at before, that's all we can really hope for,
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'm going to close this one now, man. I appreciate your time. This is my boy, Alex Orozco, nurse here at Stockton, California, man. Much love, bro.
All right, Marky. Have a good one, man. Thank you.